Feminine soft power economy, the unmeasured system that makes homes economically powerful. The morning light filtered through kitchen curtains as she wiped down counters already cleaned twice that week. Her hands moved automatically while her mind wandered to a conversation she'd overheard at school pickup. Something about invisible labor, unpaid work, the economy that never makes it into spreadsheets. She paused mid-motion, dish towel suspended in air. When had her contributions stopped feeling like contributions and started feeling like something that simply disappeared? The truth is, most of us have been taught to measure value in dollars and cents. But there's an entire economic system running parallel to the one we're told counts, and it's been powered by feminine energy for generations. Not the kind you see on balance sheets. The kind that holds everything else together. She wasn't looking for validation from economists or politicians. She was looking for a framework that made sense of what she already knew. That the work happening in homes every single day wasn't just important, it was foundational. But the question kept surfacing, quiet and persistent. If this work is so essential, why does it feel so easily dismissed? According to research from the International Labor Organization, unpaid care and domestic work contributes between 20 and 60% of GDP in various countries when properly measured. That's not a footnote. That's the backbone of economic stability that no one wants to calculate. She thought about her grandmother, who'd raised 5 children while managing a household budget tighter than any corporate spreadsheet. There was no promotion, no performance review, no recognition beyond exhaustion. Yet somehow, everyone thrived. That wasn't luck. That was a system one built on emotional intelligence, resource management, conflict resolution, and strategic planning, skills that would make any CEO jealous, operating on a budget that would break most businesses. The power wasn't loud, it didn't demand attention. It simply worked, day after day, adapting and responding to needs that changed by the hour. She started noticing it everywhere once she began looking. The way her friend could predict exactly when her toddler would melt down and redirect the crisis before it happened. The way her sister managed to stretch a grocery budget while feeding a family of 6 nutritious meals. The way her neighbor negotiated peace between warring teenagers with more skill than any mediator she'd seen in boardrooms. These weren't small talents, they were sophisticated forms of economic and emotional management that received zero recognition in traditional systems. Part of her wondered if that was intentional. Because if you don't measure something, you don't have to value it. And if you don't value it, you never have to pay for it. She remembered a moment years ago when someone asked what she did for a living. She'd hesitated, then said she stayed home with her kids. The person nodded politely and immediately turned to someone else, as if her answer had closed a door on anything interesting she might have to say. That sting stayed with her longer than it should have. Not because she doubted her choice, but because she'd felt the weight of invisibility settle over her like a cloak she couldn't quite shake off. But here's what most economic models miss entirely. Soft power isn't weak power. It's the kind that changes everything without announcing itself. It's influence without force. Results without fanfare. Think about the last time a home ran smoothly. Someone was orchestrating that symphony, managing schedules, anticipating needs, solving problems before they became emergencies, maintaining relationships, creating emotional safety. That's not passive. That's active, strategic management. The difference is that traditional power announces itself. Soft power just gets things done. She started seeing feminine soft power as an economic force that operated on different metrics. Not profit and loss, but stability and growth. Not quarterly returns, but generational impact. Not individual achievement, but collective thriving. What would you have done in her place? Kept quiet and stayed invisible, or started questioning everything? She chose the latter. Not with anger, but with curiosity. What if the reason this work felt undervalued was because the entire value system was incomplete? Studies on the economics of care work reveal something startling. When researchers attempt to assign monetary value to unpaid domestic labor, the figures rival entire industries. We're talking about trillions of dollars in value creation that simply doesn't appear in GDP calculations. But she wasn't interested in just being seen by economic systems designed to ignore her. She wanted to understand the power she already possessed and how to leverage it differently. That's when the shift happened. Not overnight, not in some dramatic revelation, just a slow, steady recognition that the skills she'd been building weren't supplementary to the real economy. They were a parallel economy with its own rules, its own currency, its own profound impact. Emotional currency. Social currency, relational currency. These weren't metaphors. They were real forms of value that created real outcomes. She thought about how her ability to read a room, sense tension, and redirect conflict had saved family gatherings from disaster more times than she could count. That wasn't luck. That was expertise. She thought about how her talent for stretching resources, finding creative solutions, and making something out of nothing had kept her household stable through economic uncertainty. That wasn't just frugality. That was strategic financial management. She thought about how her capacity to hold space for emotions, validate experiences, and help others process difficulty had supported her community through grief, divorce, illness, and loss. That wasn't just being nice, that was providing essential mental health infrastructure. Then came the doubt, the kind that whispers louder than failure. Maybe she was overvaluing herself. Maybe this was just what people did. Maybe calling it power was reaching too far. She almost stopped there. Almost convinced herself to stay small and grateful for whatever recognition came her way. But something wouldn't let her settle, because she'd seen too many women shrink themselves, apologize for their needs, and vanish into service while everyone else built empires on the foundation they provided. Research in behavioral economics shows that women consistently undervalue their own contributions while overvaluing others' work. It's not modesty, it's conditioning, and it costs us billions in lost opportunity, negotiation power, and self-advocacy. She started wondering what would happen if women understood their soft power not as something to apologize for, but as something to strategically deploy, not to dominate, not to control, but to consciously create the outcomes that mattered most to them. Because here's what she realized. Soft power in the home wasn't about maintaining the status quo. It was about architecting the environment where everyone could thrive, including her. The kitchen table became her thinking space, not because it was romantic, but because it was real. That's where the bills got paid, the homework got checked, the hard conversations happened, the plans got made. That table had witnessed more strategic decision-making than most corporate conference rooms. The difference was that no one was taking notes for the meeting minutes. She smiled, not because it was easy, but because it was finally making sense. Sometimes growth doesn't look like progress, it looks like staying present, staying aware, staying strategic about what really matters. She started experimenting with applying her home-based management skills to microventures that fit her life, not because she wanted to prove anything to anyone, but because she was curious about what happened when you took invisible skills and made them visible. A friend asked her to help organize a community fundraiser. She approached it the way she approached her household, identifying needs, allocating resources, managing personalities, anticipating problems. The event raised 3 times its goal. Someone noticed, asked if she did consulting. She laughed at first. Consulting? She just did what made sense. But that's exactly what consulting is. Seeing patterns others miss. Solving problems efficiently. Creating systems that work. What helped her the most wasn't just a planner or online course, it was realizing that she didn't need permission to start recognizing her own expertise. She tested a few approaches to documenting her skills, practiced articulating her value, and honestly, it changed how she saw herself. This isn't advice, just something that made her path clearer. Sometimes, the tools matter less than the mindset shift. Disclaimer: this content is for educational purposes only and does not replace consultation or assistance from a professional. Always consult a qualified professional for any questions related to finance, business, or investments. Here's what most people miss about the feminine soft power economy. It's not about replacing traditional economic structures. It's about recognizing that multiple economic systems operate simultaneously, and the ones we ignore often hold the most transformative potential. Traditional economy measures transactions. Soft power economy measures transformations. Traditional economy values competition. Soft power economy values collaboration. Traditional economy asks what you can extract. Soft power economy asks what you can cultivate. She wasn't trying to burn down existing systems. She was building alongside them, using principles that had sustained communities for generations. The power of this approach is that it doesn't require permission from gatekeepers. It doesn't need validation from institutions that were never designed to see it. It operates on its own terms, creating its own definitions of success. She watched her daughter playing in the next room and wondered what world she wanted her to inherit. One where only certain kinds of power counted, or one where all forms of contribution were recognized for their true impact. The answer felt obvious. But the path there required something most people weren't comfortable with. Redefining value on their own terms instead of waiting for someone else to do it. Recent studies on women-led microenterprises reveal something hopeful. When women apply their household management skills to small business ventures, they demonstrate higher rates of sustainability, stronger community impact, and more resilient financial practices than traditional startup models. It's not that women are better at business. It's that the skills developed through invisible labor translate remarkably well to conscious entrepreneurship. She realized that the question wasn't whether her contributions had value. It was whether she was willing to claim that value out loud. That shift felt dangerous at first, like she was being arrogant or demanding recognition she hadn't earned. But then she remembered her grandmother again. How she'd held that family together through poverty, illness, war, and loss. How she'd never complained, never asked for credit, never expected anything beyond survival. And she thought, what if my grandmother had been seen? What if her genius had been recognized? What if she'd been given resources that matched her impact? The world might have looked completely different. She couldn't change the past, but she could change how she moved forward. Her workspace was still her kitchen counter, but it no longer felt like chaos, it felt like possibility. Because she'd stopped waiting for permission to acknowledge what she'd been building all along. An economy of care, an economy of strategy, an economy of transformation that happened one meal, one conversation, one decision at a time. When she poured her coffee the next morning, it was still hot because this time, she wasn't rushing, she was building. Building recognition for work that had always mattered. Building frameworks that honored soft power as real power. Building a future where her daughter wouldn't have to choose between visibility and service. The feminine soft power economy isn't about being seen by systems that don't value you. It's about building systems that reflect your values. It's about transforming invisible labor into conscious legacy. It's about recognizing that the work you've been doing all along wasn't preparation for something important. It was the important thing itself. Tell us what part of her story resonated with you most and where you're watching from. Your journey might just inspire the next one. Tell us which country or city you're watching from. See you in the next video. Bye.